stop everything right now, because a few small coins you might have ignored your entire life could secretly be worth a life-changing amount of money. And the most shocking part is some of these coins are still hiding in ordinary pocket change right now. Face screaming in fear. Every day, millions of people handle pennies without even thinking about them. They get tossed into jars, dropped in drawers, or spent without a second look. Over time, these coins become scratched, dark, and worn, looking completely worthless to the average person. But behind the scenes, something very different is happening. Collectors and coin dealers are quietly searching for a few specific wheat pennies that have become extremely rare and incredibly valuable. Some of these coins have shocked the world by selling for huge amounts of money, turning what looked like a simple copper coin into a hidden treasure. And here's the part most people never realize. Many of these valuable coins were not found in museums or locked vaults. They were discovered in normal places: coin jars, old collections, garage sales, and everyday pocket change. That means there is still a chance that one of these rare wheat pennies is sitting somewhere near you right now, unnoticed, unrecognized, and incredibly valuable. In this video, we're going to reveal 3 wheat pennies that collectors are constantly searching for because of their insane value and rarity. These are the kinds of coins. Before you spend or ignore the pennies in your pocket, take a second to check the date, because one year stands out more than almost any other in U.S. coin history. If you see 1943 and a small D mint mark, you might be holding one of the most famous and unusual coins ever made, the 1943 D steel wheat penny. This coin looks completely different from normal pennies, and there's a powerful historical reason behind it. The 1943 D steel penny belongs to the Lincoln Wheat Cent series that began in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. The portrait on the coin was designed by Victor David Brenner, and it remained unchanged even during one of the most dramatic material changes in U.S. coinage history. When you look at the front of a 1943 D penny, you'll still see Lincoln facing right, with "I in God we trust" above his head, liberty to the left, and the date 1943 on the right. Just below the date is the small D mint mark, showing it was struck at the Denver Mint. But the real shock comes when you notice the color. Unlike traditional pennies, which are made of copper and appear reddish-brown, the 1943 D penny is silver gray. That's because it is made from steel coated with zinc, not copper. This change happened during World War II, when copper was urgently needed for military equipment like ammunition and electrical wiring. To conserve copper for the war effort, the United States Mint switched to steel for 1 year, only 1943. That makes the 1943 steel penny one of the most recognizable coins in American history. When you flip the coin over, you'll see the classic wheat reverse design with 2 wheat stalks framing 1 cent, and United States of America along with E pluribus unum at the top. The design remained the same. The only difference was the metal. The 1943 D steel penny was produced in very large numbers, with over 217 million coins struck at the Denver Mint. Because of this, the coin is not rare in circulated condition. But here's where things get interesting. Steel pennies have a major weakness. They can rust. Because the coin is made of steel under a thin zinc coating, any damage to the surface can expose the steel underneath. Once exposed to moisture, the coin can begin to corrode and develop rust spots. That means finding a 1943 D penny in clean, rust-free condition is much harder than you might expect. Collectors pay close attention to surface quality, no rust or corrosion; strong original zinc coating; minimal scratches or marks; bright, clean appearance. Coins that still have their original silvery shine are much more desirable. Now, let's talk about value levels. A heavily worn or rusted 1943 D steel penny is usually worth a small premium over face value. A clean, well-preserved example with strong detail and minimal corrosion can be worth significantly more. And high-grade coins with bright surfaces and strong luster can become highly collectible, especially those graded in mint state condition. But here's where things turn from interesting to extremely valuable. There is a rare and famous mistake connected to this year. In 1943, a few pennies were accidentally struck on leftover copper planchets from 1942 instead of steel. These are known as 1943 bronze pennies, and they are among the most valuable coins in U.S. history. If you ever find a 1943 penny that looks copper instead of silver, you could be holding something incredibly rare. Here's a simple test collectors use. Use a magnet. A genuine 1943 steel penny will stick to a magnet because it contains steel. A rare copper version will not stick. But be careful, some steel pennies have been coated or altered to look like copper, so authentication is always important. Back to the standard 1943 D steel penny, collectors also look for mint errors such as off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing, clipped planchets, where part of the coin is cut off, die cracks appearing as raised lines, double strikes, where the coin was struck more than once. Even small errors can increase collector interest. If you find a 1943 D steel penny, here's what you should do. Check the date and confirm the D mint mark. Look at the color, make sure it's the original steel gray and not altered. Test it gently with a magnet. Examine the surface for rust, scratches, or damage. And most importantly, do not clean it. Cleaning a steel penny can remove the zinc coating and permanently damage the surface, reducing its value significantly. The 1943 D steel wheat penny is more than just a coin. It's a direct connection to one of the most intense periods in world history. It represents a time when even the smallest everyday objects were affected by the demands of war. Millions were made, but far fewer survive today in clean, original condition. And hidden among them could be one of the rarest mistakes ever produced by the United States Mint. So, the next time you see a strange silver-colored penny, don't ignore it, because that small, unusual coin could be one of the most fascinating and potentially valuable discoveries in your collection. Before you spend the pennies sitting in your pocket or stored in a jar at home, take a moment to check the date carefully. Many people ignore older coins, thinking they're only worth 1 cent. But collectors know that even common-looking wheat pennies can carry history and sometimes surprising value. One coin that frequently appears in circulation finds and old collections is the 1951 D. Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it may seem ordinary, but depending on its condition, color, and possible mint errors, this coin can still attract collector interest. The 1951 D. Wheat penny is part of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series that began in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. This was the first time a real historical figure appeared on a circulating U.S. coin, making it a major milestone in American coinage. The portrait of Lincoln was designed by Victor David Brenner, and his design remained on the penny for decades. Looking at the front of a 1951 D. Wheat penny, you will see Lincoln facing to the right. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust," with liberty to the left and the date 1951 on the right. Just below the date is a small D mint mark, indicating that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Flip the coin over and you'll see the classic wheat reverse design that gave these coins their nickname. 2 wheat stalks curve along the edges, framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. This design remained in use until 1958, just a few years after this coin was made. The 1951 D. Wheat penny was struck in large numbers, with over 625 million coins produced at the Denver Mint. Because of this high mintage, the coin is considered common in circulated condition. However, that doesn't mean it has no value, because in coin collecting, condition is everything. During the early 1950s, pennies were used heavily in everyday transactions. They passed through stores, vending machines, and daily commerce across the country. As a result, many surviving 1951 D pennies show visible wear. On worn examples, the highest points of the design begin to flatten. Lincoln's hair, especially above the ear, may appear smooth, and the cheek and jawline can lose definition. On the reverse, the wheat stalks may lose their fine lines and the grain details may fade or disappear. But when you find a coin with strong detail, sharp lines, and minimal wear, that's where collector interest increases. Coins that were never circulated may still show their original mint luster, a bright reflective shine, that moves across the surface when tilted under light. Luster is one of the key features collectors look for when identifying higher-grade coins. Another critical factor is color. Because wheat pennies are made primarily of copper, they naturally change color over time. Collectors divide them into three categories. Brown BN, darkened over time, most common. Red-brown RB, mix of original red and darker tones. Red RD, bright, original copper color, most desirable. Most 1951 D pennies you'll find today are brown. Red-brown coins are less common, and full red coins in high grades are the most valuable. A typical circulated 1951 D wheat penny might only be worth a small premium over face value, but a high-grade, full red example with strong luster and minimal marks can be worth significantly more, especially if it has been professionally graded. Collectors use a grading scale from 1 to 70, and coins graded mint state 65 or higher are considered premium examples that attract serious interest. Now, let's talk about something that can instantly increase value: mint errors and varieties. Even though the 1951 D is a common date, errors can make a big difference. Collectors look for repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled, double die errors in lettering like Liberty or I in God We Trust, die cracks visible as raised lines, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is cut off. These errors occurred during the minting process and can make an otherwise common coin far more interesting. If you find a 1951 D wheat penny, here's what you should do. Check the date and confirm the D mint mark. Look closely at Lincoln's hair and facial details. Inspect the wheat stalks on the reverse for strong lines. Examine the color: brown, red-brown, or red. Search carefully for any unusual features or errors. Using a magnifying glass or coin loop can help reveal small details that are easy to miss. And most importantly, do not clean the coin. Cleaning can scratch the surface and remove original mint luster, reducing the coin's value. Collectors always prefer coins with natural surfaces and original patina. The 1951 D wheat penny represents a time in American history when coins were still made primarily of copper and used heavily in everyday life. It comes from the final decade of the Wheat Penny series, just a few years before the design was changed in 1959. Millions were made, but far fewer survive today in high-grade condition with original color and detail. And that's what makes the difference, because sometimes the coins people ignore the most are the ones that reward the careful eye. Before you overlook the pennies in your pocket or toss them aside without a second thought, take a closer look at the date, because some of the most interesting coins in U.S. history come from the World War II era. One of those coins is the 1945 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny. It may look like a simple copper coin, but it represents the final year of wartime coin production and still holds strong interest among collectors today. The 1945 D. Wheat Penny is part of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, first introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln. This coin made history as the first U.S. circulating coin to feature a real person. The iconic portrait of Lincoln was designed by Victor David Brenner, and it remained unchanged for decades. On the front of a 1945 D penny, you'll see Lincoln facing to the right. Above him is the motto "I in God We Trust," with Liberty on the left and the date 1945 on the right. Just below the date is a small D mint mark showing that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. When you turn the coin over, you'll find the classic wheat reverse design. 2 wheat stalks frame the edges, surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America, with E pluribus unum at the top. This simple but iconic design is what gives the coin its nickname, Wheat Penny. The year 1945 is especially important in history because it marks the end of World War II. During the earlier war years, the U.S. Mint had experimented with steel pennies in 1943 to conserve copper. But by 1944 and continuing into 1945, pennies were once again made from a copper alloy, often using recycled shell casings from wartime ammunition. That means the 1945 D wheat penny is literally made from materials connected to the war effort, giving it a deeper historical meaning. The Denver Mint produced over 266 million of these coins, making the 1945 D fairly common in circulated condition. However, like all coins, its value depends heavily on condition. Because these pennies were widely used in everyday transactions, buying food, paying fares, and making small purchases, many surviving examples show wear. On circulated coins, Lincoln's hair details may appear flattened, especially above the ear. The cheek and jawline may look smooth, and fine details in the portrait can fade over time. On the reverse, the wheat stalks may lose their sharp lines, and the grains may not be clearly visible. But when you find a coin with strong detail, sharp edges, and minimal wear, that's where collector value starts to increase. Uncirculated coins, those that were never used in daily commerce, can still display original mint luster, a bright, reflective shine that moves across the surface under light. This luster is one of the most important features collectors look for. Another key factor is the coin's color. Since these pennies are made primarily of copper, they change color over time due to oxidation. Collectors classify them into 3 categories. Brown BN, fully darkened, most common. Red-brown RB, a mix of original red and darker tones. Red RD, bright, original copper color, most desirable. Most 1945 D pennies you'll find today are brown. Red-brown examples are less common, while full, red coins in high grades are much harder to find and more valuable. A typical circulated 1945 D Wheat penny may only be worth a small premium over face value. But high-grade coins with strong luster and full red color can be significantly more valuable, especially when professionally graded in mint state condition. Now here's where things get even more exciting. Mint errors and varieties. Even a common coin like the 1945 D can become highly collectible if it has an error. Some examples collectors look for include double die errors, where letters or numbers appear slightly doubled. Repunched mint marks, where the D was struck more than once. Off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing. Clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is missing. Die cracks, visible as raised lines on the surface. These errors occurred during the minting process and can make a big difference in value. If you come across a 1945 D Wheat penny, here's what you should do. First, confirm the date and check for the D mint mark. Next, examine Lincoln's portrait. Look for detail in the hair and facial features. Then check the reverse wheat stalks for strong lines and clear grain details. Observe the color brown, red-brown, or red. Finally, inspect the coin closely for any unusual features or errors. Using a magnifying glass or coin loupe can help reveal details that are not visible to the naked eye. And remember one important rule: never clean your coin. Cleaning can damage the surface, remove original luster, and significantly reduce collector value. Coins are always more desirable in their natural, untouched condition. The 1945 D Wheat penny is more than just a small piece of copper. It represents a turning point in history, the final year of a global conflict that changed the world. It also marks the return to copper coinage after the unusual steel pennies of 1943. Millions were produced, but far fewer remain today in high-grade condition with original detail and color. And hidden among them could be a coin that stands out from the rest. So, the next time you see a worn penny with a 1945 date and a small D mint mark, don't ignore it. Because even the most ordinary-looking coin can carry extraordinary history and sometimes unexpected value.